Thanks for tuning in to the Empire Boxing Podcast. A huge thank you to our partners at Sting Boxing. It doesn't matter if you're into boxing for fitness, as an amateur, or as a pro, Sting has something for you. Head to their website, stingsports.ca, and use the code EMPIRE10 at the checkout to receive 10% off.
An Empire Boxing and Unlearning Network production.
Welcome back to the Empire Boxing Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Jay, and today we have a professional MMA fighter. So taking a little switch from the boxing world, going into the realm of combat sports in MMA. We've got Jaime. He's in the building with us. Your current record, 8-2. You're on a 5-fight winning streak, and you're coming back for your first fight after about a 3-year layoff on March 30th and fighting in BFL. So that's, 5 days after our show or something. So I will be there.
Wow.
I know. And you should be there
honored.
too. Yeah, absolutely. Jaime, welcome to the show. It's so nice to have you on.
Thank you for having me here. This just means the world to me.
So I was like really excited about this all day because we've been getting to know each other over the last couple months or whatever. And every time I'm with you, just a good crack. You're just a funny fuck. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what I always said.
And I really I like your whole energy and obviously, mad respect as an athlete. I think we have some mutual friends and word on the street is, you're a savage and you're gifted, in what you do. So I want to ask you lots about that. I want to ask you about your journey through MMA, kind of some of the more relevant things that have been happening to you lately. I want to talk about this next camp. I want to talk about your fight. But first I need to know where the Gremlin came from.
So my first nickname was the Joker. And then
This makes sense.
Yeah. And then for very obvious reasons. And then I had my first fight when I was 14. And then when I was in the fight, I just completely spazzed out, used zero technique, kept screaming and yelling. And then when I took the guy down and I mounted him, I made the weirdest noise, like I was a demon possessed. And I was like, hush, 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 hush. Yeah. And then my coach just looked at me after and he was like, I was screaming around the ring still, making weird noises. And then he's like, be happy. And then there's a footage of it and I was like, I am fucking happy. And then I have this little fang tooth here. And then,
it's not little. There's actually a series of 3 teeth, exactly. 2 upper, 3 lower there that contribute.
So pretty much part creature. And that's kind of how it stuck. And then he's like, you're just like a little fucking gremlin. And then he's like, that's it. And I was like, shut up. Don't call me that because that's just it's not really fun to be known as looking like a gremlin.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it just never stuck.
Right.
Or it's always stuck.
Yeah, it never escaped you.
Yeah, it never escaped
a bad
me.
smell.
Never left. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like body odor.
But now you've embraced it and you are the Gremlin.
I am a smelly gremlin. Yes.
And you can follow Jaime at Team Gremlins.
Please
Correct?
don't.
Follow him. I don't know.
Don't.
Go
I'm not here to promote
troll
myself.
him and shit.
Yeah.
No, but we're here to promote you because I think it's really important. I'm really passionate about making Canada have some thing that's awesome when it comes to sport. What do we really have? The Blue Jays are really disappointing.
Canucks aren't doing us any favors either.
The Canucks are terrible. Go Flames go, but they're also terrible. Yeah. And BC, we're obviously kind of bringing up sort of the boxing world in BC, but I think that I would love to see a world where there's more crossover between MMA sport fans in BC and boxing sport fans in BC and supporting the two events because it doesn't seem to be a huge crossover right now. We'll get people who know, people or may not have sparred each other kind of coming through, but it doesn't seem to be the same crowd all the time. And I was talking about this with Rod, the cut man.
Yeah.
And so he had some good insights on that too. But I'd love your opinion. Why do you think that there is the BFL Mamba fans and then the boxing fans and how come they don't mingle?
I feel like it's some of the people that are MMA fighters, they're not exactly all purists where they go and they actually just go into a boxing gym and just work on boxing. Mm-hmm. It's all the mindset is boxing for MMA and they don't really take a lot of the time to just really respect and honor the sport. Most MMA fighters, if you talk to them, most of them don't watch boxing. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, to me, that's just always seemed such a disadvantage. Why wouldn't you learn how to you know what I mean? Being able to box at a high level for boxing, how would that not translate over into your martial arts? And then just learning to adapt that and just realizing with MMA, the distance is a little bit different, mm-hmm. but it's all applicable. It's the base of your striking, even in MMA, has to all start with your hands, right? And everything kind of follows off of that. So And I feel like a lot of the boxers like these fucking MMA guys and stuff,
Right.
right? And
well, I mean, let's be real too, because watching, I would say less so more recently, but watching MMA in the past, like UFC for me, I was like, oh man, this boxing is like, it hurts me to look at.
Yeah.
But then I also thought, that's a bit of a narrow mindset, because I've also not tested how much of pure boxing actually translates in an MMA setting. So I think there's more to flesh out from my side. But then, on the flip of that, I've been seeing more like boxing coaches be assembled into the teams of MMA fighters, like, Dillashaw, you've got, who's the Italian?
The Italian.
The Italian guy. Oh, yeah. What's his name? Big old square head, blonde dude.
I don't know.
I can't remember. Anyways, the Italian guy, it'll come to me later. But anyways, Julian Chuli's in both of their corners.
Yeah.
And Vittori, Marvin Vittori.
Marvin Vittori. Yeah.
So, and you're seeing these boxing coaches come in, and you're actually seeing the striking improve. I mean, I think Sean O'Malley has fantastic boxing, and he utilizes a lot of good footwork and feinting and some more kind of flash stuff, but it really works well. So you're seeing it evolve a little bit more. When you, and you're a fan of boxing though. I mean, I've trained with you too, and you have a really strong grasp on boxing. Where did MMA fighting start for you? Did it start in boxing, or did it start on the ground?
It kind of started actually with like taekwondo and karate when I was like really young, and then I just really kind of like disliked it because I actually like just thought instinctually like this isn't gonna work.
Right.
And then
like what? Like in the streets? In the hard streets of Chilliwack?
In the hard streets of downtown Chilliwack, in the grass park with all the trampolines and shit around. Yeah, that's where it was. And then like I like took time away from martial arts, and I was just being a shithead, like just hanging out, doing whatever. And then when I was 14, I kind of just started training everything right away, but I had a really strong love for like boxing right away. And then I had really good like boxing coaches right away. And then I got to work with like Tony Pep at like a really young age.
Tony, legend.
And just like a legend. And then I had like just a lot of good striking coaches from the beginning, from like Muay Thai coaches. I had like Coulthard Gill that I'd work with, Cajun Johnson, a lot of guys that were like well trained under a lot of boxers. So I kind of like was spoiled in that regard. Like I had really good boxing from when I started the sport.
What was it? Right place, right time? Or how did you fall into some of those amazing opportunities with coaches?
It was just like Revolution Martial Arts at the time. There was a gym in Chilliwack, and then especially for Chilliwack, like the level that was of coaching that was there, people would drive from like Langley, people would drive from Vancouver.
No, everyone's sleeping on Chilliwack then.
No, it's not what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
a gleaming past.
Unfortunately, until I head back over there, I don't think anything's gonna happen with it.
Okay.
But at the time it was very high level. Like Cajun Johnson was a striking coach. I had like Pele, Bibiano Fernandez, like a lot of high level guys were like coming out there and like coaching. So it was like strong technique being shown like right away at that gym. So
right. And what was like your first, let's say couple weeks to like first couple months? Like, did you know right away you're like, oh, okay, this is my thing? Or did it take a bit to grow on you?
No, it was like after the first day, I like got beat up, and I was like, I don't know what it was. It was just like, I think
the gremlin
I just needed,
inside.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm a very competitive person. So if I feel like I'm not getting the better at something, I like need to go back and to like make those adjustments. And then, I just kind of became obsessed with it. Like from there, I was like watching Pride and UFC and stuff like that. And then right after, I was like, yeah, I want to become a world champion. And it's been like 14 years later.
Wow. And so you had your first fight when you were 14.
Yeah.
And it sounded like, you gremlined him. And so what, you won by technical knockout?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like stopped the guy with ground and pound in the first round.
Right. And then how did coming off of that win, heading back into the gym feel for you? Like, was it like a game changer? Like, you're like, this is all I want to dedicate my time to?
Yeah, pretty much. Like I was getting into trouble because like I was skipping school, or most kids were skipping school to smoke weed or something like that. I was skipping school to like go to the gym. I would like go to the open sparring, the pro sparring in Langley at Revolution.
Yeah.
So then I was like getting kicked out of school actually because my attendance was like so bad.
Yeah.
So then I ended up having to do like homeschool. Then I'd have to like switch, go to a different school because like my attendance, no matter where I went, was horrible. So they're like, okay, well if you're not going to come, like you have to do it online. So I finished online.
And look at him now.
I told you I was super smart. They didn't believe me. Like my test scores didn't reflect that, but I knew inside I was way smarter than them.
And so like, what was that, considering all that, like I think every parent has its, or a family has its battles with like young kids and especially young boys, like in school. And then you fall into something like that, I don't know, were your family like, oh, good for you. You're going to, stop going to school and go, fight MMA professionally? Or were they like, oh, hell no. What was that like for you?
My dad thought I was stupid.
Yeah, did he not think you were serious? Probably.
No,
Yeah.
no, he thought I was
He's
crazy. You're like, you go out there and give him hell, buddy.
Yeah,
very
Little
condescending.
pat on the head.
Actually, now I'm starting to
Good
think
job.
about it. You're starting to bring up some real shit here. I'm gonna have a talk with my
We're
dad
gonna have
about
this
this.
little trauma party right
exactly. We're gonna Dr.
Can we
Phil
trauma
up.
bond tonight?
That'd be awesome.
Excellent.
I'd love nothing more. That'd be fantastic. I've always wanted someone to listen to me talk about my feelings more than anything.
Hey, I mean, you've got about 5 minutes. Go.
Okay. No, I'm not going to take that long, and I'm not going to embarrass myself on this.
No, but seriously though, like, was it a bit of a battle at home to kind of get your family behind you, or did you just not really listen and take the bull by the horns?
To be honest, I didn't really live with my family growing up,
Okay.
so I was kind of like they were around, but I was like living with a lot of coaches, especially when I started to train. There was like this point in my life where I was like homeless as a kid, so then I was like living with a lot of different coaches, and then people I'd meet from the gym and stuff like that. And then they were definitely not supportive, but then when they saw me kind of like succeeding and thriving, and then realizing there was opening up opportunities for me to like go train different places in the like in Canada and stuff like that, they were a little bit more supportive.
That's kind of shit.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, but to be honest, it was like one of those things where I just knew that I was going to be successful doing it, or at least I had that feeling that I was, and I knew I was good at it. So I was just like, let's just go full board, and I don't care. Like there was no, like the reality of me being from Chilliwack at like 14 and thinking I was going to be a successful MMA fighter. Your odds aren't very good, but I was like, I'm just going to find a way to make it work.
So you're no, stranger to grinding against adversity.
Yeah.
And so how did that tenacity and like your ability to know that you possessed the I guess the grit to go through that, how much did that assist you in kind of what you've just been through?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, like you said, sorry, I like there's just been so many times in life where it's like I feel I've had to overcome situations that like when there's daunting things brought to me, it probably doesn't phase me as much as like the regular person, just because
your bandwidth is like wider.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Just like people have like different thresholds in life, and it's already a hard sport on its own when everything's like kosher and chill. It's already a hard sport. So I just feel like I developed a lot of mental toughness as well, like throughout my journey of martial arts, because you have to have it, otherwise you're not going to be successful. So it's just kind of like no matter what happens, like just keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, talk to us a little bit about kind of going through the illness and recovery and everything. Like, just kind of give everyone a sense of like what happened to you, because you were on the threshold of UFC or Bellator or both, I guess. At any moment, it was like someone was going to be, you were going to be picking up the phone, and it was going to be a phone call that changed your life, and then instead you got your life changed in a completely different way.
Yeah, I was in 2020, I right at the before kind of COVID and everything happened. I just started to get like these like stomach pains and this like dizziness and stuff, and no one had any idea what was going on. I'd go to like doctors and they just tell me I was crazy and I had anxiety, and I'm just like trying to like figure out what was going on with me. I was so sick to the point where like I couldn't get up out of bed. And then my girlfriend at the time, she's like, maybe you just have some like bug or something. So we wait like a month, and it's only getting worse. And then it just kind of continues to like a point where I'm vomiting blood. I'm like passing like blood all the time. I had like balance problems. I had problems in my stomach, problem in my lungs. I started to have like heart arrhythmias and stuff. Like my heart would just start skipping beats, and then I'd just be like sitting down doing nothing. My heart would be beating like 180 beats per minute, and trying to like figure out what's going on. I had to like basically stop working for a while. And then it just kind of keeps going. And then in about the summer of 2020. It's about like 4 months into everything, and everything's just kind of gotten worse. And I'm basically like living like a cripple. And then I end up getting hospitalized. My like right adrenal gland was like failing. And then they had to put me on like these corticosteroid steroids, keep me in the hospital. Ended up like getting like a crazy infection while I was in the hospital. So then I was like really sick with that. I got like a staph infection in my lungs. And then so that like happened. Then I leave the hospital. They're like, I'm still so sick, and they're like, yeah, no, you got to get on this medication, everything. And then I get on it, but I'm not getting better. And then in November of 2020, I full on like have a seizure. I was just by myself. I like smashed my face, had to get like stitches because like I just dropped on like the concrete. I was having like a seizure, and then
were you still trying to train in and amongst this time?
I would like be able to get like through a couple weeks of being like feeling sick but training.
Yeah.
But like no, I was not myself. I was like still planning to fight because I got told that I was gonna fight for Contender series, which is like, the show that you get on to go fight in the UFC. And then I got the call that
it was like right there.
I got the call. It was like fully like, you're fighting. Can you do it? And I'm like, I was just like, that was like probably one of the worst days of my life, just because I was like in the hospital when I got the call too. And I was just like, and then there's just a lot.
Was there a piece of you that was still like, yeah, I can do this?
Yeah, no, I said, I was like, yeah, I'm going to figure it out. Just give me a little bit of time. And then it was like, I had a seizure like the next day, and I'm like, I can't do it. Like, I don't know what's going on. And then I ended up getting diagnosed with brain disease called like autoimmune encephalitis. So then I had like all these things that were inside my body that were like attacking these like receptors in my brain, but it was left untreated for so long. So my body's just been like constantly attacked now for like 9 months. And then I guess that there's no like real explanation as to how it happens, but then forever we're trying to figure out, like, after we treat the encephalitis, we're trying to figure out like why I'm still so sick.
Just putting out fires
just constantly. And like I would be able to get through like 2 weeks of work and training, and I get sick again. And I was in the hospital even in 2021 when I was feeling better. Like, I think I had like still like 100 emergency visits. So like there's over like 100 nights where I like spent in the hospital just trying to figure out. They kept telling me like, you are dealing with anxiety from all the stuff you went through, blah blah this. But then I end up meeting this immunologist that the hospital directed me to. He does these additional tests, and then he tells me that I had early onset of something called like systemic sclerosis, which is like an autoimmune disease that basically just like destroys your body's connective tissue. It attacks like your organs, attacks your heart, attacks your liver, attacks your kidneys. So then I was just like this pretty like daunting news. And then just dealing with that for forever and just getting sicker and sicker. And then this year 2022, I had a fight scheduled at the end of 2021. And then in 2022, obviously before that I had to pull out of that fight. And then in 2022, it was just pretty brutal what happened. My face was like flushing out one day, and then I just was having this clear fluid just drip all over my body, and I had no idea what it was. It was just like this white kind of fluid that was just coming from everywhere. I thought I was sweating.
So scary.
And then it just like clear, it looked like water almost. And then I woke up one day like just with this like crusting of like this like brutal stuff that was coming from like out of like my skin pores. And then my face became like unrecognizable. I look like so I end up getting put in the hospital again. I had like sepsis. I was on like a ventilator, basically given like a 20% chance to live because the infection had gone to my heart, it got into my lungs, and then it also was in my liver, and then was attacking my liver. And then then they're like, this is like, it's so out of control that we don't know if he's gonna make it. So and then just dealing with that. And then I actually like that's one of the times like when I met you and I still had like a thing attached to me, you know, and I
Yeah,
had
it was like a pick line or something,
yeah, I had
right?
like a pick line
And that
in
was
my
at
arm.
like a AVA tournament or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so I was still told at that time that like my liver is dying, that I basically like was gonna die because you get like something called like post septic syndrome.
Right.
So then I had sepsis twice that year or 3 times that year. So yeah, I was basically like on my deathbed. I basically told like I wasn't gonna live.
Wow.
And then yeah, it just it's just crazy.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
Like
it's just
it's
crazy.
and how old were you when this kind of started?
It's 25.
25 years old. To have like to get the phone call that you've been working for since you were 14.
Yeah.
And then to have 2.5, 3 years of your life like put on hold with like basically a timestamp in your mind as like a 20, what I guess at that point you would have been 26.
Yeah.
26 and a half year old. That's absolutely insane. You know, and I want to say like the craziest thing to me is, you know, I guess when we were interacting at that AVA tournament, and that was kind of one of the first times I met you, like you were still like you are right now, like joking and laughing and really optimistic. And I know I didn't understand the severity just based on chatting with you. Like, I mean, I'd kind of seen what was going through your Instagram or whatever, but to hear that story now and then reflect back on our interaction, I was like, it blows my mind that you could kind of like, because you were coaching that day too, weren't you?
Yeah.
So you were like leveling up still, being the fighter that you are, kind of having to go through things that gave you like some sort of hope and pleasure and joy and being involved in the sport and supporting other people through that time. I think that's fucking amazing.
Yeah. No, it was honestly like I went to a point where it's like I didn't want to be anywhere near MMA gym out of like just like
It was heartbreaking.
yeah, exactly. Just it reminds me every day of where I'm supposed to be and what I love to do. But then I just got to this place where I was like, to be honest, I was like, like I may be dying, and I just want to spend time with my friends and my teammates and like watching them. And I just kind of became obsessed actually with helping people at that time, because I was like, it was kind of make me feel like I was still a part of the sport, and I was actually, because I would go and coach the practices, and I'd, you know, even like when I had like blood clots and stuff in my leg, I would like still like once I got out of the hospital, my first trip, I'd like go to Pinnacle and you know, go see everyone and stuff like that. So being in the gym was kind of like my oasis and like my little escape from you know, being at home by myself and just being like, you know, because that was not a good place for me to be.
For sure.
Like by myself at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like it's tough, right? Because initially that thing that you want that you can't have, that you're sitting on the sidelines watching, is so triggering. It makes you so like angry. Like I can't even. I tore my calf recently. I couldn't even like. I spent a couple classes like watching, and I was just like, this is shit. You know, I was like miserable. But you're right. Ultimately, like what's gonna make you feel better? Like being there, absorbing it, being around it, or sitting at home spiraling. You know, in very warranted misery at that point too, right? Like there's nothing to feel good about with that. But I'm really glad and impressed that you made the decision to be part of the sport, because I personally know athletes that you've impacted and you've been their coach, and how many good things people have to say about you, you know, in the sport, in both boxing and in MMA as well. What were some of the biggest, like, I feel like at this point you've lived, you know, 40 years.
Yeah, it feels like that.
So what are some of the biggest takeaways that you have for someone, you know, going through, let's just say even like normal levels of adversity? Like what kind of life lessons did you walk away from this with?
Yeah, I just feel like I do feel like I'm not necessarily like religious, but I do believe that there is like I had to like dig deep, like look within and trust that there was something higher than myself that was gonna get me through this, because every logical thing from like my blood work, I was also diagnosed at one point with like lymphoma. I had like a form of like lymphatic cancer, and then I was just like would tell myself I at one point I was like just accepting it. I go home and I cry every day and be like, I'm gonna die and this just sucks and this is brutal. And then I just made this shift that I was like, I'm just gonna fucking figure out whatever I gotta figure out. I was like, because I almost like I switched almost from being like accepting and just sad about it to being like, no, fuck this. This is whack. Like I wake up every day looking like this and I feel like shit. And like I made this decision that was like, I'm gonna get my full life back, or like I'm actually okay to like leave at this point. And not even out of like in a negative way. It was like this, like life is meant to be lived. And I just feel like I just put a lot of faith into like something greater than myself, because I knew at that point I needed like, I honestly at that point I needed a miracle.
Yeah.
And then I just refused to take like that attitude, like never say die. You know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not accepting this. I'm not going like this. And then I just had this talk one day with my little sister, and she's like kind of in the dark, and she was just like, why aren't you around anymore? And then I had to tell her, and she just started bawling her eyes out. And then she's like, grabbed me, and she's like, I don't want you to die. I don't want you to die. And then I was just like, that moment, I was like, I broke down so bad to a point, but like not in a way of like,
it was like
depressed.
you got just
I'm
your
like, no,
shells
I'm like,
cracked. Yeah.
no, I was like, no, you like fucking, you got to find a way to stay around for this. And then I had like some support of like the MMA and the boxing community and everything with getting this antibody treatment that I heard works against like the type of diseases that I have with the like autoimmune disease that I had. And then it was like, I think they say it's usually about a 30% chance that it works. And then for me, it was like within 2 months, I was already back training, and I put my cancer fully into remission.
Wow.
And I don't test positive for systemic sclerosis anymore. There's like no more antibodies of it.
Wow.
And yeah, it happened so quickly.
Wow. There's so much there. Like, what do you think? So we're kind of talking about the idea, like a word that came to mind when you were describing that sort of how you felt in that shift in you as a surrender. You just had to surrender. That sort of like, I can't think my way through this. None of this makes sense. I have to surrender a piece of my heart to this. But then that shift, what do you think was more of a miracle, the treatment or the frame of mind shift that you had?
It's definitely the frame of mind shift, because even before I got the treatment, there was already things that were getting better. And like I changed a couple of things diet wise, of course, and everything. But like I was kind of like past the stage. It's like, you know, when you're having a heart attack, they're not going to tell you to start going fucking pescatarian. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of dying. So like you got to figure it out. So it was definitely more of like a mental shift. And then I just like, the one thing I learned about this too is that you could be healthy, you could do all the right things, you could work out, you can exercise, but if your mind is not in a good place, you're not healthy. You know what I mean? And that really, like, I could tell you like firsthand, your emotions impact your physiology. You know what I mean? Like if you're not happy with inside yourself, you could eat the cleanest food, you could eat organic, you could do whatever. You're not going to be a healthy person, because that stress is what ultimately kills all of us, right? Yeah. Stress is what makes everybody sick, and, you know, and depression with, you know, it all has an impact on your physiology. So It was just like knowing that like, okay, this sucks. I have to walk around with a staph infection on my face. You know, I feel like I'm ashamed of how I look. I feel like I'm sick. I feel like I can't do a lot of the things my friends can do. But I just kept having that mindset, like, but you're going to be able to do it again one day. So just relax.
Yeah.
You know?
Nice.
Yeah.
And it's so true. I think like, you know, emotions are a funny one, aren't they? Like we all have them. They come and go. Not all emotions are based in truth.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you truly surrender and give all of your emotions and all the things that run through your mind and every thought, if you give them weight and truth, it becomes a biochemical reaction, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, your heart rate's elevated and you're stressed or whatever. And then, that absolutely has a physiological response in your body. And imagine clocking up, like, you know, some people really struggle and clock up a lifetime of feeling shit about themselves. I think we've all been there, right? But then you layer illness on top of that, and it makes the argument for mindset as a healer so much stronger, right?
Yeah.
That's incredible. And now you've got a fight coming up March 30th.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was interesting too, because I remember chatting with Dan, because, you know, you and I talked, and you were getting a little bit of pushback from some of your coaches and stuff. You know, everyone was like kid gloves a little bit, right? They were like, well, we don't want to push them too hard, too far, or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, I've been waiting 3 years. Like I've been through worse. Put me in, you know? So, and we were chatting about like, well, why don't we try and get Jaime on the card as a boxer? But I'm so glad that it worked out this way, and you get to do what it is that you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, ultimately, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's to fight on MMA. Boxing fans, we have another event just around the corner. The Takeover 2, The Uprising, is just a couple months away. March 25th, we will see you back at the Grand Villa Casino in Burnaby. check out our website, empireboxing.live, and head there to get your tickets today. So what's next for you after this?
Yeah, so I'm fighting March 30th. Everything goes well. I would imagine from everything I'm hearing that like obviously there's no next fight because this is the only thing I got to focus on, but I would imagine with a pretty spectacular win, the UFC would probably be next. I just got to like obviously focus on what's ahead right now because I don't want to underestimate anybody because it's a crazy sport where anything can happen. So my mindset's very strong. It's very switched on, but I'm gonna put on, you know what I mean? I'm just very confident. Especially like, it would be one thing to be like delusional, to be like, oh yeah, now I'm healthy and I can go to the gym and exercise. That's one thing, but to be able to be fight ready is a whole different other thing. And I've never felt better. I just feel like,
I was just gonna ask.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're a different person coming into
this?
this?
Yeah, I definitely do. I feel like I'm just mentally a lot stronger, even like in every day-to-day life, like things that would normally bother me or stress me out. I just do not like care. I don't even acknowledge
all the fucks
it.
Have been spent.
Yeah, literally they are so spent.
Spent them.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no more left. So I just like, I feel like I'm a very focused person now, whereas maybe before, like I was always disciplined about training, but I had distractions. And before I liked to party, I like to do a lot of things like that. And I'm just very like focused. And I think I know who I am as like a man more now. And like this process has really like matured me that way. So, yeah, I just can't wait. Like, I feel like now it's like there's lost time to make up for.
Right.
So I just want to go. I'm like, let's fucking, after this fight, like, I'm going to be right away back in camp. Like, who's next? You know what I mean?
Amazing. So, and I kind of want to talk about, like, you're my first MMA fighter to be on the podcast.
I feel honored.
You should feel honored.
I feel
this
honored.
is a pretty big deal. No, but like, so, I mean, I'm so familiar, and my understanding is very much in the boxing world and what camps feel like in boxing, and I know what kind of a grind, that is. However, nothing has ever blown me away more than the idea of an MMA camp. And like, I love watching UFC Embedded and stuff like that, because I'm like, holy shit. Like, it's, especially when they're kind of towards the tail end of the camp and you see them like Shark Tanking, where it's like you have striking for, 2 minutes and then it's just wrestling, or it's straight into jiujitsu, or it's straight into, whatever. Like, it just seems, I guess the question I'm trying to ask is like, how is camp spent so that you can give the right percentage of your energy to each discipline in the most effective way for your game?
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
It's tough. And there's so many different methods and like mindsets that people have towards it, where like a lot of people think that like, oh, I already know how to fight. So the camp is basically based around strength and conditioning and hitting pads and sparring and just like the gritty stuff. But like, I feel like as a person who really like respects like the aspect that there's so much to learn now, that I really just try to make sure that I kind of stay just in shape all year. So there's no like, oh, I got to get in shape now for this fight. So I maintain my fitness, but I really just try to focus on spending as much time in my camp on doing rounds and doing like the technical aspect of things, because you can't fake your way out of technique. You can't fake your way out of knowing that if you get put in a bad position to fight, you know how to get out of it. You know the right sequences and the right movements to utilize. So there's a lot of different methods. A lot of people think it's about just preparing hard. A lot of people think it's about, just grinding. But a lot of it too is like there's an intelligence aspect of it, like, setting up situations, having the right training partners that are also high level, but also know how to work, you know what I mean? Closer to a fight when someone's cutting weight and stuff. You're not trying to like, kill them. Like, let's peek in, let's let's zone in, give them the right reactions, but not, you know what I mean? And at a certain level,
mitigating the intensity.
Exactly. And especially once you've had like, I'm a young person, but I've had a lot of fights already. So for me, the days of feeling like every session just I have to just banging. Go hard, just bang it out, are just done for me. It's a really stupid way to train.
Well,
actually,
it's interesting because I've had some experience. Like, I've been supportive in some MMA female MMA camps, like coming in as a boxing sparring partner, and I was like, man, these MMA girls, they bang. Like I was
And
like,
they're
I don't want
so emotional.
I
I
don't want-
love it.
And it's so funny. It was like, you know, it was like open mouth, like, hey, shush. And like, I'm like, I don't want any of this. So I'm just
Yeah.
gonna be on the back foot and I've got long arms, so you're gonna stay over there.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh shit, these girls can bang. Like there was a level of, because I was also not familiar with like, I don't know what MMA sparring etiquette is. I know what boxing sparring etiquette is, and I always try to play on the conservative side. I never walk into a gym like flexing, you know. I'm just like, oh, thank you, you know, whatever. And then I do my work in the ring, but I take it slow. Like I don't want to come in there and like, you know, blow my load in the first like minute or like assume something from someone, right?
Yeah.
But then I didn't know what the MMA like sparring etiquette was. So I was like, oh shit, these people can bang. So my assumption was that MMA camps are like 1000% out the gate. But, you know, the more you get educated and the more you watch, and I think the more you know about like, you know, training athletes and the phases of a camp, and so the more you realize that there's actually like quite a formula involved in that. Now, would you say like based on kind of your past, it sounds like you kind of brought more striking you're more striking forward in your style, or would you say you're pretty balanced? Because you're a jiu-jitsu black belt as well.
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty balanced. Like I like boxing. Boxing is kind of like the style. I actually used to be way more of like a jiu-jitsu ground guy. Most of my fights
Really?
were spent on the ground, taking people down and controlling people. And then I think it was because I didn't have fully trust in my stand-up. Early in my career, I don't know why that was, because I would spend all camps out striking people, whatever. But then there is just a reality too that like having a high level wrestling and high level jiu-jitsu, it's like when you're on top of somebody controlling, there is no fight anymore. It's control, damage, control, and there's no back and forth. So now I just feel a lot more confident in the sense of like I started doing more MMA sparring with the small gloves. So I used to do a lot of like my grappling was with small gloves, and then my striking was with big gloves. And then I got way more comfortable later in my pro career with the distance and just being able to like, okay, yeah, having the right people to go with as well. That's important. And then realizing like, okay, yeah, so I got to be like sharper with my hand positioning with these smaller gloves on because there's less surface area, right? With the big gloves. And then just got way more comfortable defensively when I started training that way. And then it's been more throughout my pro career now that my striking has shown more.
Right.
And yeah, a lot of my fights go like I have a lot of submission wins because usually like I'll hit people and then they go to take me down, and then I'll just counter wrestle, get on top, and then I'm like, yeah, I love ground and pound too. Like if I can get someone flattened out, smash their head in, I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
It's a great feeling.
So kind of going back to what you said is like you can't fake your way through like where the technique is missing, and maybe that's why jiu-jitsu shines so much in MMA is because it's the ultimate equalizer. Like if you're on the ground with someone who has really good jiu-jitsu, you're fucked. Like if you're not at that level.
Yeah.
You know, and you see guys like Charles Oliveira, and you see like all the Kazakhstani boys and stuff like really leveling up the jiu-jitsu game. And now I'm seeing more UFC fighters, I think, trying to sharpen their jiu-jitsu, because you're right, once you're down there, the fight's kind of, if one person's controlling, it's over.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a sub, or they're gonna get you pinned in a position where there's a ground and pound, and it's gonna be a knockout or a stoppage or something like that. That's so fascinating. Now, talk to me about your journey through jiu-jitsu, and like you're young to have a black belt.
Yeah, I got my black belt when I was 26.
And who did you study under?
So I originally started with Cajun Johnson, who's a black belt under Faraz Zahabi, who's like, under the Danaher lineage. So I made a switch to Pinnacle Martial Arts. It was Checkman at the time in 2019. But I'd always trained under Dennis and stuff like that, like all throughout my career. So Dennis Kang gave me my black belt, he's a high level black belt under Marcus.
He's someone I'd love to have on the podcast too.
Oh, he's amazing.
He's kind of a legend, actually. Probably someone that I think some people in boxing might not know who he is, but when you hear his resume, you're like, oh, yeah, my God.
Yeah, I think like as far as people with good records, he has the most fights out of any MMA fighter in Canada. Like he fought everybody, you know what I mean? Dennis is a legend. And then I got my black belt from him. And then me and Cajun, we kind of had like a little bit of like a reconciliation when I was kind of sick and everything like that. And then he asked Faraz a hobby. He's like, do you think Jamie's worthy of like getting his black belt? And then he said like, absolutely. So then I got my black belt under him as well. So yeah, it's like a pretty cool, like, it's pretty cool to be like under like a very traditional lineage of like Dennis, and then also like having that grace of like Faraz giving me my black belt is like, that means a lot. And then especially 2 Cajun was my first ever coach. So it's also like, it's really nice to like be able to like be like receive it from him and under his guidance, right? So
yeah, and getting a black belt in general is no small achievement. It's, you know, it takes people like sometimes like minimum 10 years.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, by the time you're 37, you'll be like, you'll have your black belt for 10 years. So what does that make you, like coral belt or whatever?
I want like a cool color for
Yeah.
me. You know, I expect like a custom belt with like a spinner on it.
I would expect nothing less than that.
Exactly.
Maybe like something like straight out like with the movie, like the Gremlins, like some kind of graphic.
There better be a fang on it.
Yeah,
That's all
or
I
at
know.
least 3.
Yeah, exactly.
3 fangs. Got to look the part.
Exactly.
That's fucking cool. What was the most challenging fight of your career?
Well, it's got to be the one I lost. I fought Cole Smith. We fought in 2016. I was the champ of BFL, and I knew Cole. He trained in Thailand. He was like 15-0 in Muay Thai over there, and then he was 2-0 in MMA, I think. And we had mutual people we trained with, so everyone kept telling us like, this is gonna be a crazy fight. This is gonna be a crazy fight. So right away, to be honest, I thought I was just gonna knock him out cold. Me and Cole are really good buddies now, actually. So like, it's just crazy talking about this fight, because right away, I was hitting him with some good shots right away, pushed him against the cage, and then in the first like 2 minutes, he caught me with an elbow that broke my nose in like 5 different places. I was like, oh shit. So it got real really quick. And then my nose was just leaking like a faucet. We battle for like another 3.5 rounds. The fight's very close. Like I think I won like 2 of the rounds. He won 1 of the rounds. And then I got, he got to my back and he choked me in the 4th. But that was like, a lot of people recognize that as like the best fight that's ever happened in Battlefield.
Yeah.
It was a war. Like like I had, my nose was messed up. Like, he had like, it was a bloodbath. We went to war. So that's obviously got to be the toughest fight of my career, just based on like the damage given and received. It was chaotic. Like, that fight really opened up my eyes too, to being like, you can't, I kind of got like, I caught one of like his push kicks, and then I like went charging in with like an overhand, and I thought like, I just saw his head right there. I was like, oh, it's there. And then he like managed to get his leg back that I like caught. And right as I stepped in to throw the overhand, bang, caught me with a right elbow, like right. And I was like, I actually gained way more of a respect for like the clinch and knee and elbow game distance from that fight, and just realized
coming from like a Muay Thai guy too, like he had that timing on lock. Like,
exactly.
Something he's done 1,000 times probably.
Totally. It was like my boxing and my like kicking against like his like clinching his knee. And I always feel so comfortable in the clinch because I'm able to press people up against the cage. But he had like a strong answer that would just create as many spaces with like elbows as he possibly could. So like, I have a scar from him here, and my nose is permanently crooked from the little fucker. So Cole, if you listen to this, asshole.
That's amazing. And what was like your proudest moment thus far?
I think it was probably when I won the unified title. I won the unified MMA title. I was brought out there as like a really big underdog against this guy. He was on like a big win streak, and everyone just kind of thought I was going to get beat. And I kept asking for the fight too, because of that, I knew people like, after my fight with Cole, I was like 3-2. So then everyone just thought I was going to be like that 50-50 fighter that just like, but then like, I really wanted to fight someone tough because like, I know where I'm at. I knew that, like, not making an excuse. I just knew I was young in my career and a little emotional and a little stupid in the way I approached things. And then I got a lot more like intellectually, like in depth with like, okay, I'm going to approach fights now. And after being exploited, you kind of just realize like, your ways of just being stubborn through it isn't going to work.
Right.
So then I went out there and I fought like a really technical fight. And then right at the end, I put him away with like a body shot.
Yeah.
And it was, I think it's my proudest moment, because I always said in my head, I'm like, I want to finish a fight with a liver shot. Like
Yeah,
that's
I
like on my bucket list.
I was digging and I found that clip
Yeah.
of that liver shot, and the guy just absolutely crumpled
Yeah.
into a ball.
Yeah, it was like it was the best shot I've thrown in my career, 100%. Just because like I've knocked people out, but like that was like it was just so clean, and I just could feel it. Like I've still to this day never landed a body shot like that. And I was like, I just saw the timing like after I threw like the overhand, he like high guard covered, and I was like sunk it through, and I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
this is orgasmic.
And then it was Jaime doing a lap around the cage, just like
Talking
having that
shit.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that, I mean, I'm gonna stay in my lane. Like I can't speak to all your experiences in MMA, but I'm gonna say that there's a high likelihood that it was the layering of nuances and all the technical steps and that got you to that point. Like I think that's the coolest thing about combat sport is it is a chess match.
Yeah.
There's a whole, 9, 12 minutes before that moment that made that moment.
Yeah.
All the establishing patterns and then breaking the patterns and interrupting the rhythm and finding the distance and all those nuances that go into that moment. And I find that really interesting that you had that moment, an unrepeatable moment, and a time that you made a decision to have like the most technical fight of your career.
Yeah.
Not the most emotional, not the most like, flash or Hail Marys and all that kind of shit was at the end of like a chess match.
Yeah.
So is that sort of something that you draw on now going into this next fight?
Yeah, for sure. I just feel like too, like, I feel like my style is already with like the weapons that I like to use and the weapons I select in fights. They're already like before I wanted to be known as like a guy who's so exciting. And I really like, to be honest, my style, I wanted it to be known as like very violent when I fight.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized I'm like, you can just utilize that and let it out when it needs to come out. Like when I go in to finish someone before, I'd hurt someone like bah, 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 and I'm like smothering my distance and like everything doesn't like I don't end up putting the guy away. And then my last couple fights, I've just been putting people away like in very devastating fashion because I'm like, oh yeah, you don't even realize what you're going into now. Like my last fight I had, the guy got super deep on a high crotch and he didn't realize like the littlest thing most people would see like, wow, there's a beautiful entry, but I'm like, oh, you're like leaned over at a position right now. I'm like, oh, if you keep going on this, like I'm going to throw you. And then he kept going on it. And then I like knocked him out with a slam. And most people thought that was like, oh, he just accidentally hit his head. I'm like,
no, it wasn't lucky.
It was not lucky. It was very planned and very well timed on my part. So I just like to let the finish come to me now. I used to be in a rush where like, I want to be that guy who's known as finishing people right away.
Yeah.
Now I'm just like, let it happen. You know what I mean? And just kind of let the finish come to me. And to be honest, some people are just very high level and they're tough. And I just have that like maturity in the sense, yeah, I may not finish everybody, but as long as I'm dominating, I'm okay with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Who's your biggest like, fighter inspiration right now in UFC or Bellator or one champion? Who do you look at the most?
Like I look at people for different things.
Okay, so talk to me about, okay, let's go ground game, let's go striking, let's go kind of well-rounded.
So if I have to be like striking, like he's not really my style, but like Izzy, like Israel Adesanya, he's so fun to watch.
He's flash, hey?
Super
but
flash.
It's silky and beautiful and it's still really technical.
And it's based off of a high level foundation of basics. It's just you know, it's very intricate. Like I said, it's not really my style, but
and
like
his wingspan too. Like how long is that guy's arm?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. He's huge. He's like
ridiculous.
Yeah, I've seen him in person. He's like he's got to be like 6'4", 6'5" or something like that. He's you look at him on TV, you think he's so thin, but he's a really big guy.
Yeah.
And then I watched a lot of like Islam Makhachev.
I was actually going to ask you about Islam. I think he's just incredible to watch.
Yeah, his wrestling and like most people don't realize like a lot of his stuff, like they look at like, oh, his wrestling's amazing. Like he uses judo at such a high level in MMA. Like most of the trips that the Dagestani guys do that most people like consider wrestling, most of it comes from judo and sambo. So realizing how they use their upper body and how they manipulate people with like their legs and their limbs and like their foot sweep game, their like throw game is just at a level that people like won't even grasp until like you actually learn where these techniques are coming from.
Right.
So yeah, definitely watch him for like a lot of his grappling. And actually I was watching a lot of Charles Oliveira.
Yeah.
And then I saw what Islam did and I'm like, it's crazy. It's just crazy. That fight just absolutely shocked me because it was just like, wow, like it just goes to show like the levels of like the
I was
foundation.
just gonna say, someone's really fucking good when they make someone who's really fucking good look not as good.
And like Charles was running through everybody. Like he beat Poirier, beat Justin Gaethje, like and not just beat them, like ran through them.
Oh, that Gaethje fight was almost hard to watch.
Exactly, and it's like, and then you go out there and you see what Islam does to him. And I've cornered against Islam before in the UFC, so I've seen it firsthand how this guy operates, and it's very high level.
And then you layer that with like a level of like stoicism or whatever. Like they've been hauling, like stones up a mountain their entire lives and shit. And you're just like, these people are terrifying.
For sure.
Like the whole bear wrestling thing is like, it's not a fucking joke. These guys are just built different. There's something about their frame of mind too that is just built different.
100%. Yeah. And then another guy that's like incredible to watch is Piotr Jan.
Jan, yeah.
Yeah, he just lost a split decision to Sean.
He did, but I mean, what did you think about that fight?
It's very close. I don't know. Like I didn't think it was a bad decision either way.
Because there was a lot of people talking about robbery, for Jan.
Yeah, I didn't think that. I thought it was like it's depending on how much you score and like his takedowns and stuff. But to be honest, like he hurt. Like I think he has more tools than Sean, but Sean just fought a really good fight, a really smart fight, and like Sean O'Malley too. Like he's a guy like a personality wise, I actually think I'd get along with him really well. Like a lot of people think he's like a flashy kind of shithead, which he is, but like at the same time, he's like a cool dude, likes to smoke weed, and and he's like
how important is that in marketing now? Like
for sure.
For a fighter, like it's almost more beneficial to be like Strickland or whatever. Like,
exactly.
It's more beneficial to be a guy who's like raising eyebrows than it is to be like Makhachev, for example, not marketable.
Yeah, exactly.
Not
just kind of
all.
Cast it into the shadows, right?
Yeah, he'll be a champion because you can't argue with a finish or whatever, right? But marketable, absolutely not, right?
Yeah,
but
no.
you want a little bit of that raising the eyebrow and stuff like that. And I think that's something that you, just because your personality, like you're hilarious and you have this just really bubbly, but funny, but also sharp personality. Like I think that's something that's going to play really well into like your ability to market yourself throughout your career going forward.
Yeah, I think it's important. Like what I like try to focus on is like one thing before when I was on camera, I was just so stiff and just like not relaxed. And then like just kind of as I go, I'm like, you can't necessarily like certain people like Colby Covington, for example, the way he markets himself, you could tell like from I've known people that know him and they're like, that's not who he is.
Right.
He's a really nice person. So for me, like an act would be exhausting. So I'm just going to be myself. I feel like I'm like good with people. I'm good at getting to know people. And like, I just try to be myself as much as possible because I'm not trying to go down the road like trying to be the villain and then all of a sudden I'm feeling nice one day and I gotta be an asshole. It's like if you're cool, you're cool. If you're a dick, you're a dick, and I'll treat you accordingly. You know what I mean? If someone's cool with me, I'm not gonna talk shit. But like for example, like this next guy I'm fighting, I don't have a single nice thing to say about the guy. I think he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, I was reading online. There's been a little bit of back and forth here. So what's the deal? Why? Okay, so why is he a piece of shit? Why do you?
He's like when I'm like in the hospital, like septic and stuff, he's making these stupid videos like pulling out of the fight, faking illness. The only thing you got is like it's so fun. I want to show you that. It's so funny. I shouldn't even be upset, but at the same time, like,
but it was like at a really shitty time.
Yeah, like I was probably gonna die at that point, and then you're like, he just talking all that shit, being like, oh, like the only medical condition you got is being like a little fucking bitch, and I was like, well, that's not a medical condition technically. I was like, that is not, sir.
I'm not a doctor.
I'm not a doctor, but I gotta tell you that you're not very smart. And I don't know. He's a punk. He's one of those guys like. He says all this stuff, and then I even like send him a video of like when I got like the diagnosis and everything, what was happening with me, and I was like, hey, I try to like message him out of respect. And I message him like, hey man, I'm very sorry. I hope you can get up on it. And then he sees it, and then he puts this stupid video up. And then I tell him, like, in person, like, I swear if I see you in person, I'm going to smack the shit out of you.
So wait, you sent him something in confidence, and he puts it up on social media then uses it against you?
Pretty much, yeah. And I was, like, trying to be respectful. I'm like, man, I'm going into surgery in, like, 4 hours. So, like, I don't know what you want me to do. I can't fight, and, like, my career's probably over. And then after all this, whatever, then I see him I saw him at an event. He won't make eye contact with me or anything. And then he goes and he has this fight. He wins, but he looks horrible in the process, just getting shit kicked the whole time. And then afterwards he comes up to me. He's like, "God bless you, man." And I'm like, just shut up. Like, just get away from me, please.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm like, I'd like to think I'm like a person who's learned and evolved in life and I've grown a little bit, but I'm still bitter and I'm still an asshole sometimes. So you know what, bro? Let's just fight, and I don't need to be friends with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wow, that's some like low shit. Like, I'm all for a little bit of shit talk, and I think some of it's super funny, but it can really get carried away. And then next thing you know, you got Will Smith slapping like Chris Tucker,
keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
It's just like, do we have to go here? Like, it was a bit much. And then like what infamous shit talker Gordon Ryan or whatever.
Oh
too.
yeah,
that
for
shit's
sure.
pretty funny.
For sure. No, I love shit talking.
Right? It's great.
Like my love language is like shit talking. That's why I probably can't do well on dates anymore. I end up roasting them to the point where they just want to cry and then they leave, and I just end up having dinner by myself. So there we go.
Anyways, it ends up being a cheap meal as long as you do that before they order.
Exactly.
Because then you're only like
you're trapped.
$16, $20 in for the cocktail or whatever.
Exactly.
Or you eat both dinners and just like whatever.
It's called tactics.
It's back to that chess match.
Exactly.
I want your thoughts on Volkanovski.
Yeah, I think he's an animal. He's a beast because like he fought my friend Jeremy Kennedy, and I have the most respect for Jeremy Kennedy. Like, he's the man, honestly. He's like a guy I've met throughout my career, and like I know he wasn't in like the best mental place when he fought Volkanovski, but to be able to ever do that to Jeremy, I don't think anybody in the world would be able to do that to him. He's an animal, and that guy's just. He just looks better. He just looks better every fight. And it's like good. What he did to Max Holloway his last fight. I was just like what? It was just shocking to me.
Yeah.
And I know people have trained with him and said like he is just that guy. He's that guy in the gym. He's that guy in the fight, and he's just an absolute animal.
It goes back to like there's outliers in every sport, like people that just like it doesn't make sense. Because you can have someone else who puts in the exact same amount of effort, someone else that has access to the exact same amount of resources or whatever, and then you have these people like Gordon Ryan, for example. I mean, steroids aside, like he would probably be that good. He was that good without it. Yeah. So, but he's just an outlier, and I think Volkanovski is one of those guys. I think Makhachev is one of those guys. They're just they're born for it.
No, I rolled with Gordon when he was like not on steroids and a brown belt when he came to TriStar, and he was that good.
Wow.
Yeah, he made me feel very stupid.
It's like wrestling with your dad when you're 6.
I was very upset. The worst person who's ever made me feel that way is Ryan Hall, because he's this skinny fat guy with a fucking crazy amount of chest hair. And
in jiu-jitsu, that's just like not great.
It's just not fun to deal with. And then like I was on top in half grade. He's like, "Yeah, start, buddy." And then I remember like I think at the time I'm like a brown belt too. And he like wrist locked me, and I was like, "This is just stupid." Like, I just wanted to go home and cry. I was like, "This is not a fun day at all."
Are you for or against toe holds?
Like, sure, you could do it, but I like lose respect for you immediately. You know what I mean? Like, you could do it, but like, we're not gonna be friends outside the gym. Like, that's a certain type of personality.
Yeah, you just look away at the toe hold.
Yeah.
Now, is there someone out there, you know, in pro MMA that you haven't met yet, you haven't trained with, that you would love to?
A lot of people.
Top 3.
To be honest, one of the guys I really want to train with, just like he's kind of like obviously newer, but like I really do want to train with Piotr Jan, just because stylistically he's kind of like a style that I really like to implement. Just like how well rounded he is, and I would really just like to get that feel of going with him. There's a coach I'd really like to train with, Trevor Whitman.
Yeah, wow.
He's a boxing coach for MMA, for a lot of MMA guys. I feel like his style, and like I just listen to how he like speaks with his athletes, and it just seems like it would really resonate with me, like everything that he says. And then another fighter I'd probably like to work with would be I would honestly really love to just pick John Jones's brain. Like just like obviously
on how not to do certain things. I'm
not saying that I do those activities. What I'm saying is he's really good at fighting. And I know people are going to be a little suspicious about me wanting to hang out with him. I swear I don't have allergies. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Oh my God. That's great.
I probably just ruined my chance right there.
Yeah, no,
so
it's okay.
we're not going to edit
Shout
this,
out John
obviously.
Jones
but
if you're watching, just he doesn't have allergies.
I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry, and I'll make it up to you.
That's so funny. So how does that world work? Like, do you get called up for camps and stuff like that, like out of the blue, or is it somebody knows somebody, or they're looking for someone? Like, how does a guy from Vancouver, BC, like hailing from the mean streets of Chilliwack, how do you get invited to a camp that's going on in Nevada or like Vegas, LA? How does that work?
To be honest, I think most of it is like obviously you can have connections and stuff like that, and for me, especially where I'm at, it's got to be kind of like I just got to go there and make an impression.
Right.
And like,
so is that more on you to like check on the backpack, book the plane ticket, show up, and be like
100? Well, I think once you're like in the UFC and people see you on like a world stage, you get that like kind of more open invite. But until then, like like when I went to TriStar Gym in Montreal for the first time, I was like an 18-year-old kid, and I got lined up. My first day of sparring was they're like, "Oh, you're not a pro," and they're like, "Oh, you can't be here." And then my coach Cajun was like, no, he's trust me, this kid can like hold his own. So then he's like, okay, I'm gonna put him in, and like the guy's got fights coming up. So I went with Yves Jaboué. I was fighting the UFC at the time as a bantamweight. Ivan Menjivar, and then I went with Joey Gambino, who was also a UFC featherweight. That was my first 3 rounds, and then after that, you kind of like just pick. Every guy in the room is Bellator, UFC, ONE FC. Like everyone was just like high level, and then Faraz was like almost like giving me this look like, I swear if you're a fucking waste of time, I'm gonna be like pissed off. Like it was a lot of pressure. I felt more pressure that day before any fight. Like nerves were insane. Like I was having a panic attack warming up. And then I like actually did extremely well with like all those guys. And then he was like, how long are you here for? And then he kept inviting me to all the pro practices. And then they actually ended up at the end of my trip, he's like, how long are you going back home for? And I was like, I don't know. I'm just going back home. And he's like, what do you do at home? And I was like, I just train and hang out. He's like, cool, you're going to train and hang out here now. And then he sponsored me, and I lived in Montreal off and on for like 4 years and training out there. And then I was paid to be like a sparring partner for guys. And then, so for me, that's kind of how I got into it. And like, I established a really good relationship with like TriStar Gym in Montreal. But I do have plans to do that in other places. And obviously the more I keep fighting, the more active I am and the more I keep winning, opportunities like that will naturally kind of open up. But, I kind of like to, like, I don't really like having to like, that like almost that sense, like the mentality, like, oh, I expect people to roll out the red carpet for me. Like, no, just show up and meet the guys, train with the, help out, train, shut up, listen, and and just kind of have like more humble mentality. I don't really like to be that guy who's like center of attention. Like when there's certain people you meet the sport, the fucking guy who's, I have a fight coming up, I'm taking this spot. And like, man, I'll go wherever there's a mat space so I can train. I'm not that guy. I'll like have amateurs that want the cage when I have a fight coming out. Go ahead. If that really makes you feel like you're getting better training being over there, go over there. That's like, I don't really like to be that like center of attention that way in the gym. I like to just like shut up and train. Whatever my coach tells me to do, that's what we're doing.
Right.
So.
Right. Okay. So if you could fight any current UFC competitor in your weight class, who would you want to fight?
Well, healthy, I want to fight Volkanovski.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want
to. So hoping you're going to say that.
I mean, 100%. Like that's the only reason why I'm in the sport. Like I want to know. I really do feel like being very objective about like the skill set I have. I need more experience at a higher level. In the sense like just the competition that I fought. Obviously, I've fought guys that are very good and very high level. Like I fought a guy who's won in the UFC and did it extremely well, but I feel like once I get that feel and that comfortability in a place like that, I really do feel like there's no one in the weight class I can't beat. Skill set wise, I'm a great striker, great wrestler, great jiu-jitsu. I don't quit. I'm tough as nails. And I feel like, especially mentality wise, like, mental for mental against, and I can beat anybody in the world at my weight class. That's honestly how I feel. And I feel like I have the knockout power to put anybody's lights out in my weight class. So, it sounds crazy. It sounds delusional, but like, I really do feel like I could beat anybody in the world.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. Keep that mentality because you've earned that mentality.
Yeah.
You've earned that.
I'm just going to keep, and like I said, there may be like, I'm not delusional either. There could be, I get clipped on the chin stepping the wrong way and my lights can get put out. I'm not delusional.
Yeah, sometimes it's not even something that you're it's not something someone's doing, it's something you didn't do.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm confident, and especially going through a lot of things that I have gone through, I just know that was capable of more. And like even certain things, like certain fights that I pulled out of before in my career, that I'm like, you know, and I have a legit injury, but like looking back, I'm like, oh man, you could have got through that. Like you could have, like, there's so much awareness now that I have just objectively about myself. Like even just like, oh man, you could have handled that situation better. Like, oh, this day in this practice, like you got like flustered, even though like your ego tells you that's not what you want to hear. But like, I'm just way more objective about things now. And
there's an emotional maturity that kind of comes with that.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. And just being like, yeah, I still have things I need to work on. Like, and I think me having that mindset will actually take me further than like, you know, trying to shut the door. Like, oh, I'm good. I can beat anyone. Like, no, I can beat anyone, but I have to do it at the most optimal level or I'm going to get fucking worked.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just knowing that I have to be on top of my game all the time. Now there's no more room for error. Like, if I were to go on like a 2-3 fight losing streak, that sets me back drastically right now. So it's about being efficient with my training, being efficient when I fight, and also too just being myself. I feel like when I'm myself and I'm not thinking and I'm just operating with like my instincts of my technique and like my mindset, I feel like I'm a nightmare for everybody. That's honestly how I feel.
That's wicked. You're the gremlin.
Yeah.
The true gremlin.
Fucking true gremlin.
That movie, I mean, they were little nightmares, weren't they?
Yeah, you crawl out of like toilets and shit, little creepy fighters.
They started out really cute. Like you start out kind of cute and friendly.
And I am, you know.
What's your favorite combat sports movie of all time? Go.
I don't even know if it's combat sports, but have you ever seen Unleashed with Jet Li?
No, now I have to.
Oh, it's the best movie ever. So he's like, he's a savage, but like they treat him like he's like a dog, so he has like a collar. Oh, wow. And then like whenever they take off the collar, like his owner will tell him like get him, and he'll just start attacking people.
Like Jet Li BDSM.
Super hot. Yeah, drool worthy performance.
Okay, and then least favorite combat sports movie, like does the worst job of representing everything, like makes your blood boil. Is there one? I have many.
Yeah, I have a few actually. Okay, I want to be very, very okay.
Like shit that just grinds your gears.
Oh, what was that one? Never Back Down.
Okay, also haven't heard of this.
What is wrong with you?
So many
you
things,
never heard
Jamie.
of Never Back Down?
There's not enough time. Let's focus on you.
I watched Never Back Down and I looked at the Portman Bridge and I was like, I could take a leap of faith right now. Like if that's what people think, if that's what people think martial arts is, then if I'm that guy, then I don't have a purpose. So
okay, wow, it's that bad. Okay, guys, take note of that because we always talk about some of the shittiest films that have ever been made.
It is horrible.
Can we get Jamie's opinion on Steven Seagal?
Quick? Let's talk about.
He's my hero. He's my absolute. If I could learn from one person, actually, screw Trevor Whitman, it would be Steven Seagal.
Okay, so if Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme met in a dark alley, who walks out of that alive? Jean-Claude.
My boy Jean-Claude. Of course he does.
Okay, but have you ever had any run-ins with Mr. McDojo himself, the king, Mr. Seagal?
No.
Really?
What do you mean run-ins? Like
I don't know, you've done some stunt work and stuff like that, right?
Steven Seagal hangs out here?
Mate, all the time.
Really?
Yeah, you know what? I saw him outside of like on West 4th, like outside of like a cosmetic store. I'm not judging his personal spending purposes.
Yes, you are, and it's okay.
I was like, noted.
Really?
Yeah, little ponytail and the whole thing.
Wow. Yeah. So he's around here.
Yeah.
Wow.
He lurks. I believe the appropriate term is lurks.
He's a lurker.
Yeah, probably children's playgrounds, etc.
No comment. No comment. I have so much good detail to tell you after. I have so much good content.
This is like one of those know when to quit. Right? Yeah.
I want to remain professional without,
Wow. You know what? See, I really thought that this podcast might be you saying too much, but You almost like
yeah. You really taught me. You actually surprised me in the greatest way. I'm so proud of you. You were just talking a bunch of nonsense the whole night, but that really sealed the deal.
Again, the chess match, I was playing all those moments to get to this moment. I actually don't really care about your career at all.
I honestly, I don't know why you would either.
No, I actually still care. I care so much, actually. But
don't be fake.
No, it's true. Steven Seagal is an absolute nightmare. But yeah, he's always been a hot topic on my podcast.
Do you think you could reach out to him for me and ask him to train me?
You know what?
I think Rhett knows him well, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You know Rhett Gibbons.
Yeah, of course I do. I love Rhett.
Yeah, I heard
I'm getting hot right now.
Yeah, are you?
Yeah, I want to meet Steven.
I was really hoping the zipper might get a little bit lower as the podcast went on. The old Tom Jones zipper.
No, I'm very conservative.
You waxed your chest for this, didn't you?
I'm actually going to zip it up even higher now. I don't really like being exploited that way. You know what I mean?
What is your go-to tunes to have cranking when you're training? Are you like a train in silence guy?
No. I don't like the voices in my head.
Yeah,
I do not like the voices in my head. Those are scary. Those are scarier than the music I listen to. I listen to like a lot of old school hip hop, like a lot of like
Okay,
Tupac.
talk dirty to me. Oh, okay.
Yeah, a lot of Tupac, a lot
West
of Biggie, a lot of Mobb Deep. I listen to a lot of like Onyx.
Sick.
Yeah, I'm
okay,
pretty
respect.
cool. I'm pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty cool guy.
I mean, you said
mean.
Mobb Deep, and I was like,
yeah,
right, fine.
Yeah.
Do you like to walk out to hip hop as well?
Yes. I've changed it like throughout my career. I really just go off of like kind of the theme of like how I've been feeling that camp, or like even just going into fight week. Some days like throughout my whole camp, I was so happy and like, oh, this is amazing.
And you walk out to like a Disney princess theme
song.
No.
And then the opposite happens, and all of a sudden fight week comes, and I'm like,
like some metal.
I'm just all like fucked up in the head now. I just want to fight and
Slipknot.
stuff. And no, I don't. Stop putting words in my mouth, please. All right, it's all hip hop. What I'm saying, it's a choice between like some EDM type of stuff or hip hop.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What are you leaning to? Can you give us any spoilers? What are you leaning to for March 30th?
It's gonna be some hip hop stuff.
Nice. Well, if you need a hip hop consultant, hit me up.
Because
I know my hip hop.
Do you?
I do. I'm pretty cool.
I'm very strong in my conviction about this song, but thank you.
Okay, fantastic. You do you.
I'm gonna.
So my last question: are you gonna come to our show or what?
Yeah.
Can't say no.
Can't now. I'm like on the spot, so now I have to come.
You can't say no. Listen, you get a whole squad, and Mr. Sappers and Scrapper is going to be there. It's going to be a whole thing.
Do you think he'd hang out with me?
I might have to slip him my 20, but
yeah, okay.
But I think he would if I asked nice.
If Joey will hang out with me, then I will come.
Yeah, and then I don't know, bring some of the other the bangers from.
No, we're all like all the Porkel's boxing club guys. We're all coming out there.
Go.
Yeah. We already talked about it.
Let's go. That'd be fucking awesome, and I will definitely be there. I think, Jason, you want to go to BFL with me? Jesse, do you want to go to BFL with me?
They're coming.
Yeah.
Matt? They texted me earlier. They said they were.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay,
before,
sweet.
Yeah, they said they're coming.
Because I'm definitely gonna be there. I really want to support. And I think that would be. I think that I want to see you in action because I've been following along with your story, and it kind of like tugged on the old heartstrings. And now I know you as a person, and I just think that you're fantastic, and your story is super inspiring. And I've also heard nothing but incredible things about you as an athlete, and so mad respect. And it was such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. And
thank you.
Talk all things Jamie, and I can't wait to see where you go. And I have a feeling it's gonna be the distance.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I feel like Matt's on here.
Can we get some opinion on Jake Gyllenhaal just before we shut it down?
Oh, Southpaw. It's just a terrible movie.
Southpaw?
Yeah. Really bad. Matt likes to
be honest,
rub it in. He's like lemon in my
I obviously
cuts.
didn't crash a car and stuff, but
you didn't look at the Portman Bridge.
Well, actually I did crash a car while I was sick actually, so that wasn't, but it wasn't because I was drunk. So but that movie kind of I watched that movie quite a bit when I was sick, because I was like, wow, he did it.
Okay, wait, hold on.
I'm not saying I took inspiration,
but you watched it numerous times.
Well, he was on drugs though, so you didn't know what he was watching.
How strong was that morphine?
No, I was.
Everything's funnier on morphine.
I was hanging out with my friend Dr. Psilocybin, if you know what I mean, a lot while I was sick. So he's how
do you pronounce his name?
Psilocybin. It's a lot like psilocybin, except it's from a doctor.
It's his brother.
They're related.
I mean, I don't want this to sound cold, but if I had a potential limited window of time, That's not how I would spend it, Jamie.
Yeah, it got me with
Which Jake Gyllenhaal or the psilocybin?
Oh no,
combo probably.
I actually know Dr. Phil well.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. He's
yeah,
he's
he's a good guy.
He's a good man.
He's complicated sometimes.
Very eye-opening.
Yes, he is. he makes you look within sometimes. So.
Yeah, and without as well.
That's true. No, Jake Gyllenhaal's awesome. I don't really know what you're
I like him. No, I just don't
Yeah.
like Southpaw.
Oh, cool.
But
Why?
I really like Jake Gyllenhaal.
But you like Rocky.
I do like Rocky, but even like because Rocky is the only like movies that are, it's kind of like, you know how there's movies that are like, they're so bad, but they're like predictably bad. And they're so cheesy, but it's like, yeah, you know, Rocky's of that class, you know, the diehards were of that class, you know, but it's like sometimes when the movie's trying to be good and it's bad, that's when I have a problem with it.
Okay.
Like if it's
Okay.
like, yeah, this is like ridiculous.
Maybe I need
And,
to
like,
rewatch
overblown.
Southpaw when I'm healthy
Sober.
now.
Yeah. I
And-
mean, healthy.
Yeah, healthy. Right. I need to watch it
It's
when
pretty
I'm
bad.
in the
I think-
right state of mind.
I made it through like the opening scene and some of the like boxing choreography just like absolutely made me so mad I couldn't deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty bad, but I guess.
But there were other things that were worse in life at that time, and you were like,
exactly.
I guess this is
it's
us.
like your standards kind of low.
Yeah,
you know what I
right,
mean? You know what I
right.
mean? And
Fucking so fun.
in a lot of different ways. I'm trying to say.
Oh my god. Anyways.
I'm kidding. Relax. Take a joke. It's 2023 and shit.
Oh man, this has been another episode, an extremely fun episode and an inspiring episode with Jamie on the Empire Boxing Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Jay. Tune in next time. Subscribe to our YouTube for more boxing and MMA content.
Make sure to listen, follow, and subscribe to Empire Boxing on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.